Welcome to session 1 of Black Women in White Coats. My name is Dr. Queen Wilkins, and today I have a fabulous group of women with me. We're all from diversemedicine.org, and I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Dr. Adesina and I'm an anesthesia resident.
Hello, my name is Dr. Adesina, and I am a second-year pathology resident.
Hello, my name is Dr. Josephine Kwaku, and I'm an anesthesia resident.
Hi, my name is Dr. Dominique Hill, and I'm a third-year OB/GYN resident.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tamika Noel, and I'm a third-year anesthesia resident.
I'm Dr. Queen Wilkins, and I'm a fourth-year anesthesia resident. So today we want to address some of the topics that African-American women have when applying to medical school or challenges they may face throughout their medical career. First of all, we'll start out with a question that says, any advice you have into any young women wanting to pursue the medical field?
I guess I would say you have to be really sure that that's what you want to do, that that's really what you want to pursue, because it is a very big commitment, and just make sure you explore all other possibilities before you truly commit to taking that step and going to medical school.
And I would just like to add to that when you do figure out that is what you want to do, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Don't ever feel like other people are better than you. Just realize there are people before you and after you who also struggle. If you're struggling through medical school or even through college, just know that you can do it. You always just need that one person to just be your backbone, whether it's your family, your friends, or even yourself. Just believe in yourself once you figure out that that's the path that you want to take.
Has being a woman influenced your choice of specialty?
I guess I'll take that one first. I'm an OB/GYN resident, and when I first rotated through obstetrics, I had no idea what it was and did not think that it was what I was going to do, but I saw it as an opportunity to really make an impact in the life of young women, whether it's just sitting down with someone and asking them, what are your plans for the next 5 years, and is a baby actually working into them, and what do we need to do to make their plans come true? So I feel like there are lots of ways that you can impact the lives of women, and this is kind of the path that I think is the best for me.
I also feel like during medical school on my different rotations, I took the time to talk to a lot of different residents as well as faculty to see, how do they feel about their lifestyle and how do they feel about being able to make time for their family. So I would tell people that it's also important to try to get someone's perspective on how they feel their specialty has affected their home life.
How do you balance dating with our schedules in med school, residency, and beyond? Any ideas on that?
Okay, I'll do it. It's definitely not easy. We talked about before that this is something that you are going to be committed to, and you have to make it a priority in your life. But it definitely can be done. And when you meet that right person, they're going to understand and be able to accommodate your crazy schedule and your ambition. So. It's just keeping in mind what's important, whether it be your career or your family, and, trying to make yourself happy and not getting discouraged by anything that you may encounter out there.
I also agree. Now that it's the 21st century, a lot of women are working outside of the home and have, demanding career options that are available to them. So when looking for a life partner, you really have to try to find someone who is able and willing to understand that there is a time commitment that is involved in becoming a successful woman in medicine. And, you have to be able to have that balance whenever you meet somebody between having a relationship as well as having a career.
I think it's all about communication. If you let those people know, whether it's your significant other or family, that, this is what I'm choosing to do, these are the type of time commitments I have to commit myself to, they will understand it, they care about you, and you have to make them understand that, you know, it's kind of cyclic sometimes. You have busy times, you have not so busy times, and you just maximize your, you know, encounters when you're not so busy, and when you are very busy, they know where you are.
A lot of women want to know when's the best time to have children. Do I do it during medical school, during residency? Do I wait till I'm done? Any thoughts on that?
Well, me being the mother of the group, I'd say it's definitely, timing is difficult. When you have a baby, it's a big time commitment. And not only do you have your career, as well as the relationship you have with your significant other, you're bringing another life into the world that is going to take a lot of your time. So really, it all depends on you talking to your significant other and saying, you know, when do we feel like it's the best time for you financially, emotionally, spiritually, and, you know, taking that leap.
And also, I think it depends a lot when you're looking at different, you know, especially in residency programs like Dr. Barr was talking about. You know, you should talk to people and figure out what how the program actually feels about you having children. I can say my program personally is very willing to accommodate for people to have children, and therefore everyone has children in residency.
I think the main thing is making sure you have a really good support system at home and a really good support system in whatever phase of your life you're in, whether a support system in medical school, in residency, or when you're out in the workforce. It's going to be important no matter what time you decide to have babies.
Unfortunately, the only thing that a lot of people see about medicine is on TV. Recently, there was a series called Married to Medicine, and we see how women in medicine were portrayed on that TV show, and we see how medicine really is because we experience it every day. Any thoughts on that show and how it affects our lives, or how it relates to us or not?
I think, you know, there's a lot of talk when that show first came out. There was a petition, I remember, on Facebook to ban the show. I think it's important for people to realize that it's reality TV, and I put reality in quotes because it is television. And if they were to follow real doctors dealing with real problems, it probably wouldn't get ratings. So that show, I don't think it's necessarily bad or good. I just think it's TV. And I think it's important for people to realize that the people on that show do not represent the African American community in medicine. And I think people know that. I don't think people are watching that show and thinking that everybody's like that. So I'm okay with the show. I watch it sometimes. You know, I will admit, you know, I watched every single episode, and I watched the reunion, and I thought it was entertaining. And that's what TV is entertaining. So I don't really have a problem with it because I do think that a majority of people realize that it is TV.
I agree. I think you just have to take it for what it is, entertainment value. And so it doesn't really portray my everyday experience as a physician, so I consider it entertainment. And I think, yeah, like you said, it's just that's what you have to take it as. And hopefully people can separate entertainment from real life.
How have you gotten along with your female colleagues? Is there a sense of camaraderie, or is there a sense of cattiness, or does it differ by the day?
I think for the most part it's a sense of camaraderie and support, because we are in a field that's for so long been male dominated. And however things have changed recently, where you see more women across the board going into medicine than you see men going into medicine. So I think there's just this feeling, from the most part, of feeling the need to sort of support each other. I have not experienced any cattiness at all. I feel like it's more of a supportive environment from what I have personally experienced and from what I see.
I think I agree with that. I definitely feel a sense of camaraderie amongst the African American women in my program, even the ones that I'm not especially close to. You know, I still feel that if I ever needed them in any way, they would be there their support need, and I will be there to support them. The people who are very close to me, obviously, you have a great relationship. So I think it's very important to just always support each other. Be there when people are having difficulties in their life, and uplift people when they have, successes in their life.
Let's address a big issue that it's like the white elephant in the room. A lot of black women are kind of coined as having the angry black woman attitude. When you're in medicine, you have to be assertive, and you kind of have to, you make orders, not in a mean way, but you want people to take you just as serious as the next person. So what have you experienced? Have you ever been in that situation where someone thought you had angry black woman situation, or how do you avoid coming off as being that person?
Well, I can say I recently had an experience where I felt as though I was wrongly put into that category for just asking important questions I need to know in order to take care of a patient. And it's something that when you get those types of reactions from people, it's like you take it and you make changes in order to have them realize that you're not trying to be this threatening, angry person. You really are just trying to make sure your patient gets the appropriate care that they need. So it was an incident in the ICU where a patient was being brought that I knew nothing about the patient, so I just was asking the person bringing the patient just some history about the patient. They felt as though I was being threatening when I was just asking questions. So in the way to improve that, we've now created a special handoff procedure, a special handoff script, so that they understand that the questions that were being asked them are the questions that we all ask of anyone that's coming into the intensive care unit, and so that they understand that it's not someone threatening them or someone coming off as angry. It's just we want to take care of our patient, and we need to know information. So these things happen, but it's just finding a way to improve communication is, I think, the best way to handle those situations so that they understand where you're coming from and you understand where they're coming from. So that's how that situation was resolved.
I will say that OBGYNs have kind of a reputation of, being abrasive and being very quick, and it's part of just the way that we have to work in our field. Things happen very quickly, and we expect things to be done as quickly as we're working. And I catalog, dozens upon dozens of incidents where, I may have come across as abrasive or, been short with people, but, those encounters really don't define my personality. And I feel like people in my program and the nurses that I interact with on a daily basis know that, if I am, asking for information, or if I am, working very quickly, that there's probably a reason why that's happening. I think that you will always have someone, no matter how you act, who's going to base their perception on you on something that is not at all related to what you're doing. And you kind of have to keep that in mind sometimes when interacting with people. You can do everything right, and people will still have an issue with the way that you are interacting with them. So, it is good to be mindful of how you're speaking to people, but at the same time, if 100 people tell you, or 99 people tell you you're doing a good job, and one person says that, they have an issue, then, you can have to take it for what it is.
This is a field where you have to be assertive at times to have the right thing done for your patients. So don't be afraid to be assertive, as long as you are doing it for the good of your patient.
And I agree with that. With anesthesia, a lot of times we're not wearing our white coats. We're just wearing our scrubs just like anyone else. And no one can really tell if you're a physician, if you're a nurse, or if you're just a technician. So we go to lots of different emergency situations where you have to be the leader. And you may have to necessarily use a certain tone or be assertive or aggressive in that situation. So, just like Dominique said, I think it is important for you to try to open those lines of communication. If you kind of think back on something and feel like, oh, maybe I was a little bit rude or a little bit short with someone, maybe after the incident you can go back and say, I apologize, it was just an emergent situation. But, you know, I agree, though these situations do occur.
Kind of going off of what Katina was saying, how do you handle it when someone calls you a nurse or someone calls you a PA or an anesthesia tech? How do you feel when you know that you've gone to school this whole long time and yet you're still mistaken by it? How does it make you feel?
I actually had a really funny incident not too long ago where I had a patient that came in and I had been seeing her all night, and then finally got to the point where, you know, I went in the room and I explained to her, you know, how sick she is and how we need to go have surgery, and, you know, I'm telling her all of this, and I, you know, leave the room, and the nurse runs and gets me and says, you will not believe what happened. You left the room, and the patient asked me, you know, Dr. Aaron, the nurse, she said, Dr. Aaron, why did that nurse tell me all of this? And, you know, I was like, okay, man, now I have to go back in and talk to this lady, and the nurse said, you know, no, I told her, I explained to her, you know, no, that's your doctor, she's the one that's been taking care of you this entire time. And, you know, the nurse was so upset with the patient that I didn't really get a chance to be, you know, upset or even have to address it, because the nurse put the patient in her place. But I will say that, you know, so especially, you know, like what she said, I don't wear my white coat at all. And a lot of times if they call me a nurse, they'll say, oh, you know, I wish that, you know, I wish I had the skills to be your nurse, but no, I'm just your doctor. Or just, you know, laugh it off like that. And also that helps them remember that, you know, I am the doctor the next time I come into the room. But I just love to figure out how I can ask if I'm out of the transfer.
As a pathologist, we don't really see patients much. We only see them doing certain types of rotations. We mostly interact with other clinicians, surgeons, oncology teams. So sometimes if we have an emergency case where they think something is cancer, we have to go to the OR to pick up the specimen and do a quick frozen section where we actually look at the tissue, quick freeze it, and let the doctor know if it's cancer or not so they can proceed with their procedure. Sometimes when you come in the room, they'll look at you funny because they don't know why you're there, and you're not supposed to be in the OR. So I'll just say, you know, I'm Adesina. I don't really say Dr. Adesina. I don't know why, I'm just not used to it yet. Maybe because Adesina was my first name, so it sounds really weird for me to say that. So I just say I'm a pathology resident, you know, and let them know straight up who I am so I could quickly get the tissue I need and leave. So that happens to me a lot because you don't wear white coats to the OR, and they probably never see me before because most people don't see pathologists. So I just quickly just say I'm a resident, this is what I need to do, and then go from there.
As a female in medicine, do you feel like you have to prove yourself in order to be respected more than the men have to?
I think sometimes you do, but it's in weird situations, like working with nurses. I feel like nurses, you have to prove yourself more than as a female than a male resident would have to. Before I was an anesthesia resident, I was a surgical resident. I did a few years of surgery, and it never failed when you were on the floor. If you asked a nurse to do something for you, they'd question you, and you'd see a male resident come and ask the same thing and they would do it without being questioned. And it takes time for them to realize, oh, you do know what you're doing. And I think some of it is, and you see it a lot more with older nurses, and I think it's also just because of the history of medicine and how, like I said before, it's such a male-dominated field that they're not used to seeing other women now coming to them and asking them to do things for them. And so they just need more proof that you know what you're doing. I mean, I just would take it with a grain of salt, prove to them that I do know what I'm doing, and then it would be a non-issue the next time I ask them to do something for a patient. So it is, so I see it more with the interaction between nurses, more so than with other doctors.
Do you think also that's because the guys are a little bit more assertive in what they, you know, because I remember even when I was in medical school, as a third-year medical student, you know, you have some third-year medical student guys who are more assertive in their nature, or just the way that they approach things, you know. Maybe.
That could be a part of it as well. So, yeah, that could definitely be a part of it.
I end up hurting myself a lot because I never want to come off as that angry black female, so I'm always super happy and nice, and I'm like, oh, can you order this for me? It's an emergency, and I try to do it so nice, but I feel like at the same time they don't take me serious, but then sometimes when I do it assertively, here I am, so I always have to like find that balance or whatever, so.
I mean, I think I'm in a unique situation where OBGYN has become pretty much female dominated over the past few years, and so we have 2 males in the program, and I think that they do have an easier time simply because they're like the golden children. They're 2 males out of 18 females. So I really don't have to deal with a lot of these issues. I will say, going back to what you said, the nurses are the main ones that will put you through your paces. And intern year and second year, I thought that the nurses thought that I knew nothing and was not fit to even look at a patient. And all of a sudden, you come to third year, and they will take your word about pretty much anything that you're saying. I think that a lot of it is just they become comfortable with you and they learn to work with you. And they know when I'm serious.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Once you prove yourself to them, they will have your back whenever you need them. So it's just something you have to go through. But if you understand the mentality, you can get through it.
Let's take it back a little bit. Of all of college, med school, and residency, what was the most difficult?
As far as academics, or just in general?
As far as that point in life where you were like that far from wanting to give up, or that close to wanting to give up, which one do you think?
I feel like residency, especially intern year, was the hardest time for me. It's the biggest transition. You have all this new responsibility. You end med school on a high thinking you know something. Oh, I'm a doctor now. But then you actually start your internship, and it's like a whole other world. There's so much responsibility, so many things that are required of you, so many expectations that you're like, oh, I'm expected to do that. So it's definitely a big transition point.
For me, I think the most difficult is probably college, just because, in college, because I took 2 years off between college and medical school so I could take the MCAT to study, because in college I was maybe having a little bit too much fun, so I didn't really understand my work ethic. I didn't really know how to study, so I wasn't really doing as well as I should have done academically, but socially I had a great time. So I think college was kind of hard because I didn't really know how to study. I didn't really know myself. Once I got into medical school after doing 2 years in the post-bac program, I really was confident in opening up a book and really learning to study more efficiently and not just longer, but to be more focused. So I think college was a little bit harder.
I remember the end of third year of medical school being very anxiety-inducing because I felt like first year, second year, third year, they tell you everything you're supposed to be doing. They tell you you need to take these classes, you need to do these rotations on your fellowship. Then fourth year comes and they're like, pick your rotations, pick your specialty, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And all of a sudden they're like, wait, you've been telling me what to do for the past 3 years, and now I have to make all these decisions on my own for what's going to happen for the rest of my life. I thought you were going to tell me that too. So I just felt like that was a little anxiety-inducing, just trying to figure out, it goes back to the whole thing about figuring out whether you want to be a doctor. It's also figuring out what do you want to do with the rest of your life. And I'm non-traditional. I took the path less traveled where I started out in one field and figured out that quite wasn't for me, and I'm in a new field now. But I think some of that goes back to like that anxiety-inducing portion of third year of medical school where I'm just like, well, I think I like this, and I'm going to pursue that. So I think you just have to keep an open mind about the different fields of medicine, just keep track of what you like and what you don't like about other different fields, and you'll get through it fine. But I thought that was probably the most difficult part.
I personally think residency was, or has been the most challenging, and simply because if you think about it, when you're in college, I was a biology major, and it was more plant and animal biology. I didn't really care about it. I just did it because I knew I had to do that to get the prerequisites to go to medical school. And so if you didn't like your ornithology class or whatever, you hated being out in the field, it's okay. Just do it enough, get through this test, and you'll never have to see this stuff again. But when you get into your specialty, you're going to be taking exams for the rest of your life on things, so you can't just remember it and forget it. And then on top of that, your patients' lives kind of depend on your knowledge and your treatment. The other night, I was in the ICU, and the patient was like in hyperkalemia and renal failure. You know, that's one of those things that if I read it and put it off, then I would have just been like a deer in the headlights when that situation happened. So in residency, I guess it gets more important. You have more responsibilities, and your learning is more than just passing a test and making a good grade. So
Things get weird.
It's more than about you now. It's about you and your patients.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people are wondering, you know, residency, you work these hours right now. There's the ACGME rule of 80-hour work week. Back in my day, when I was an intern, we took 30-hour call, and I think now, I don't know what the max is, but I know interns can't work overnight call. But still, sometimes we work really long hours. We're doing 28-hour ICU calls right now. How do you balance everything else? How do you make time for your family, your friends, for shopping, church? How do you make time for all of that?
Sleep less.
I think it really all comes down to your, priorities. I can tell you that I was working last night, and I got up at 7:30 this morning, and instead of going home and sleeping like I probably should have, I, met my friends to go to breakfast because this is the only time that I had off. And then I went home and I slept for a few hours, and now I'm here. And so it's just, I realized that, probably there are things that I could be doing with my time, like sleeping, but at the same time, my priority is that I want to catch up with my friends, and I, wanted to do this, and you will figure out what's important to you, and you'll make time for that, and it becomes very clear when you have very little time what's very important to you. So that's what you'll do.
You have to make sacrifices when you choose this life of medicine, and you don't want to miss out on things. You don't want to miss out on nephews or nieces' birthdays. You're going to miss out on some of those things, holidays with the family. But you want to try and use that time that you do have to make memories with people, so that people aren't like, she was a resident for 4 or 5 years and we never saw her. You want people to still know that you care. And so you make sacrifices, but it's all worth it, I feel.
The thing that I remind myself of is that this is just the beginning, from here it goes to getting married and having kids, and so you have to learn to balance the small amount of time you have now, because there's going to be a time where time's just going to get more and more limited.
So you become more efficient too. You use downtime to do things, like sitting in traffic, you return a phone call. Downtime between cases, you can go through your email or make a quick call, or you become very efficient in the time that you do have, and you just realize how precious it can be.
Some people want to know, how do you manage to practice your faith when you're going through this struggle? Because there's so many times where you want to give up, and there's so many people telling you that you can't do it, and there's so many people in the workplace that are just testing you every single day. How do you manage to keep your faith through this all, practice your faith?
Every morning before I leave the door of my apartment, I say a prayer. I'm like, Lord, just get me through this day, because without you, I don't know what will happen. And I think that gives me that extra boost and that extra confidence that I have to go through my day and to get through it. But and I try, when I have the time, I try to go to church. I try to read my Bible regularly. But those are things that I do to keep up with my faith. And nowadays it's easy. You can get an app on your phone and read your Bible, so you can read it in between cases if you need to. So, I mean, that's my faith, and that's how it helps me to get through. Because there were times where I didn't do that, and I definitely have had difficult times during this process. And so I realized that's what keeps me going. So.
I personally, every morning on my way to work, I listen to gospel music and I say this one prayer: Lord, help me deal with these people today. You just know that nobody, that you might be having a good day, you ate a healthy breakfast, there's going to be somebody that's going to try you every single day. And then also when I moved out here, I found a church that has a Saturday and Sunday service. When I first started, it only had a Sunday evening service because I know our schedule is off. I know that on this Sunday I'm going to be on call, so I can go to church on Saturday night. So just kind of finding some things like that that'll work out with you. Joining a life group, being around other people that can motivate you in your time. And then I also think it's good, and y'all can tell me what you think, having non-medical friends kind of keeps you grounded sometimes, because a lot of us get together and we just talk about work and we just complain about work all the time. So how important is it to keep non-medical friends in your circle?
I think that is very important. They make you realize that there's more to life than just your work. We are doctors. That's our job. That's not who we are. We're mothers, we're wives, we jog, we do other stuff. I just moved back to Dallas. And moving back here, I've been in contact with friends from high school that, aren't in the medical field, because once I graduated from medical school, all my friends were in the medical field. And I realized that sometimes you just want to talk to someone who has no idea what you're talking about. You don't have to explain to them, because you're not going to talk about anything. You're just going to talk about the weather, the politics. It's really nice. And I never realized I was missing that until now.
I also think it's good to have non-medical friends, because it lets you know that no matter what job you do, you can still have certain frustrations, and they have similar situations. It may not be exactly the same as something you have in medicine, but the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side. So I think that's been a good part about having non-medical friends.
One of my friends brought it up to me. They were like, residents are the only people that I know that get 3 weeks of vacation a year, and you have to take them, or else they'll just give you a random week to get paid for it. So ever since they told me that, I'm like, you know what, that is true. Because a lot of people, I know some attendings that only get 2 weeks of vacation a year, or maybe even 4 as an attending. So I was like, I should be a little more grateful. So let's talk about finances. Everyone knows, let's start from the beginning, medical school or even college. What are some ways that if you did take advantage of other opportunities to gain money other than Sallie Mae or direct loan?
Scholarships, free money, grants. I'm sorry, I am a big advocate of scholarships. There's 3 things you have to do to get a scholarship. Apply, write an essay, and meet the deadline. Those are 3 things. And a lot of people don't want to do most of the 3 things. Some of them might want to apply but not meet the deadline. Some of them might meet the deadline but don't write an essay. So I always tell people, if you can do those 3 things, you're automatically considered for a scholarship. Because half the people won't even meet the deadline. Half the people won't even be determined to write an essay. There's so many scholarships out there. There's so much free money. You can get a scholarship for being tall. I got a scholarship going to undergrad because there was a tall club. You had to be, it was weird. It wasn't much money, $250, $200, pay for a couple books, but that's $200 less from your pocket. So I always tell people, there's free money out there. You have to look for it. You have to be determined, because once you find it, there's people out there who weren't as determined as you, so you're already ahead of the game. That's all I have to say about that. I'm a real big advocate in free money. It's out there. Look for it. Don't be lazy. Write an essay. Meet the deadline, and you'll get it.
But where did you find these scholarships at? If I knew about them, I would apply to them. Where did you find them?
In high school, this was before the internet went kind of big. You still have AOL. You still have
your age.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, tell my age. But that was when our high school had flyers from our counselor's office, where we would get different flyers from different local scholarships, and I applied to all of them. And I think I got pretty much all the ones I applied to because half of my classmates didn't apply, and they were local. Another way now, you could Google, scholarships. You could Google if you're looking for a scholarship for maybe just for African American women. You can Google that. A lot of colleges, I know where I went to for undergrad at Duke, they just gave you a scholarship. You didn't have to apply, so you can always just call the counselor and say, what kind of scholarships do you guys have? With the internet now, there's so many ways to find it. You don't even have to be connected anymore to your high school. You can always go online. And also, if you know someone who owns a company, they might not have a scholarship, but a lot of companies out there, they actually get tax breaks for giving out money for scholarships, and a lot of them set aside money every year, and by the end of the fiscal year, they have to use that money for certain tax donations or certain gifts. So, if you know of a local Toyota dealership, I use Toyota dealership because they're really big here in Dallas giving scholarships, you could call them and say, do you have scholarships? Have they given them out? There's a lot of companies out there. You just got to really, work hard. But once you find it, just don't let other people know. Until you get it, then you can share your success with everybody else. Yeah.
Anybody else have any suggestions on free money? I'm all about free money.
I would just echo what Tracy said. I think a lot of scholarships go unapplied for. When I was in undergrad, I would just kind of look at the bulletin board outside the financial aid office, outside of the dean's office, wherever they have, flyers posted. Sometimes there are scholarship opportunities posted there. And there was a big database of scholarships. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember looking at that at some point. And I'm sure it's easily found if you Google scholarship database or something like that. And then, like Tracy said, some of the local things that may not be a lot of money, they do add up. And if nobody else is applying for them, you're kind of a shoo-in for that, so.
It's kind of unfortunate, too, I'm sorry to cut you off, but once you graduate from medical school or even after college, it's kind of hard to get scholarships. So really try to get as much money as you can when you can, because once you become like us and they consider us not needy because we actually have an income, it's kind of hard to really get free money.
Churches are another avenue to find scholarships. A lot of local churches will have scholarship programs, and they do open up the applications to people that aren't necessarily members of the church. So, I know I got a few of those when I was in high school.
And
sororities and fraternities.
And to kind of echo what Tracy said, I didn't get like a huge $10,000 scholarship, but I did get a bunch of small $500, $1,000, $250 scholarships from churches, from a couple of social clubs, and a couple of them did have scholarships. And when I called, they were like, "Oh, hey, that's a good idea," and then they put out like an application. So just don't not apply because it's a small amount of money. It all adds up.
Urban League and they all have scholarships.
I would also suggest becoming best friends with people that are in charge of money. In college, I became best friends with the head of financial aid. She was an African American lady, and I was like, look, I need money. And so anytime someone would come in with an extra scholarship, I'd be the first person that she looked at to give money to. And then in medical school, my dean, I wanted to do work study, and she was like, no, you're not doing work study. So we kind of made a deal. She was like, you keep your grades up, I'll keep giving you free money. So, we had a little deal like that. So get to know the person that's in charge of the money coming in. I think that's going to be all for this session. Join us again, and you can follow us anytime on diversemedicine.org, and you can contact any of these ladies, and we'll all be willing to give you any advice that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.